here is completely out of control. Because when the mirror shattered, these are special mirrors that were created, so they are toughened glass mirror, and when they shattered, they fractured to so many pieces. And as soon as the pieces start to move, they reflect different elements. And it's impossible to know what they will reflect and what will happen to the photograph. So you can see the pink flowers at the bottom here. They actually also exist at the top. The composition completely starts to shift. Certain elements will disappear in the voids of a mirror that just fell out of place. So it's those tectonic pieces that start to move and start to shuffle everything. So there are a lot, if you start to look through this photograph, there are a lot of elements of repetition. So the same thing may appear 5 or 6 times in one place. Certain things will completely disappear, and everything starts to move against, kind of almost against gravity. Even the vases shatter into half. This is another photograph from same group of work. So you can see part of the blue vase that is appearing throughout the frame. And for me, it started to raise also a question about, because this moment happened at such a speed, and when I looked at the mirror beforehand, it was clear that it was reflecting the object itself, and I could locate the vase and I knew that the vase is actually very much in the same place in the composition to the vase that I was actually looking at. When the explosion takes place, everything starts to move around and multiply itself. And therefore, I'm no longer sure if this pink flower that appeared there is the actual reflection of the flowers that I was looking at, or is the pink flowers that appear underneath. Everything starts to kind of become very elusive, and it is no longer clear what is actual. Well, everything is actual, but only for a fragment of a second. We photographed this at 10,000th of a second. So it existed at one point, or those multiple reflections did exist and then disappeared. Sorry. I'm trying to play film. This is a film that I made in 2007 titled Pomegranate. And this film is influenced by work of Juan Cotan, a Spanish monk that painted almost exclusively objects that he arranged. The sound is not working. Almost exclusively objects that he arranged on his window ledge. And in all these paintings, there was a tension that exists between the hard geometries of the window and the parabolic shape of the fruit and vegetables that he was organizing together. And his compositions were very mathematical. There was constant shift. There is constant shift that existed in his painting between the circular shape that they start on the left side of the frame and the ovalic shapes, or the way those circular shapes are constantly being deformed and being stretched across the frame. And also, so scale is changing, the shape are changing, they always change gradually, they always held very carefully between the hard ledges of the window. And mathematically, he was trying to reach those perfect equilibriums where everything is placed in its ultimate position and all those almost mathematical tension to the shape that's following it. I was looking at Cotan in relation to photographs that were created by Edgerton at MIT in the 50s. And Edgerton is the person that is kind of almost introduced to the world these high-speed photographs. Edgerton works were very much done for scientific purposes, and this is a very famous photograph of a bullet that is penetrating an apple. Edgerton was managing to capture events that are happening at an enormous speed and freeze them, and once again reach compositional equilibrium, but from the other end of Khotan. In my work, when I looked at pomegranate, my attempt was to work between those two moments and to establish a moment again that was inaccessible to Khotan and can only become available due to new technological devices that allow this moment to exist. But there is another thing about this work that was interesting for me, and it has to do very much with the physical materiality. When you think about the original painting, or any painting, the medium itself is physical and sensual. Every brushstroke leaving a physical trace on the canvas. And when we stand in front of the Goya or in front of the Khotan, we can see the history of the painting itself. By brushstroke upon brushstroke, they're all there. It is a quality that is very moving for me when I'm looking at painting. One of the reasons why I find that painting, good paintings or paintings that I find engaging, can hardly ever exhaust themselves. As if something in the surface, the physicality of the surface, I found can manage to generate and regenerate something from within that is very difficult for the eyes to exist, unlike many photographs. But what's happening here, and if you're thinking about the invention, the physicality of painting, and then moving to analog photography. In analog photography, there is still some materiality that is involved in the process. The film itself, that is covered with an emulsion and silver halides, light is hitting the silver, and the silver, in reaction to it, becomes darker proportionally. I can still hold the celluloid, I can still feel the material. This film, like many of the photographs and the films that follow, were produced digitally. This particular work is related to a painting by Chardin. The entire process is digital. The photograph or the film was shot with a camera that can film at 1600 frames per second directly into a hard drive. It is all data that requires some algorithm in order to translate itself and become the images that are recognizable. And there is remove as can be, despite the visual relationship and similarity to Old Master, there is remove as could be from the world of Chardin or of Khotan. And something I feel need to happen in the process of moving from this abstraction mode of conception to the mode of presentation. there is an issue for me of how do I bring these images or these works from the studio into the gallery, and I kind of feel that the experience of looking at art, there is a real significance for the art object. There is a process what requires a process, some sort of fetishization of the thing into something that becomes physical, and because the interaction between the viewer and the object is adding certain qualities that are somehow charging and enriching the experience. All these films are presented on in LCD screens that are framed into a custom-made frame, and they're turning into these objects that are doing the exact opposite. They're conceived as abstract, but these objects are containing within them the media players, the computer, and the speakers, and they are becoming very tangible. The same issue exists to me when I present my photographs, that in many cases are also conceived as digital. I'm just showing a painting by Fontaine-Latour that influenced a series of photographs that I created titled Blow Up. Fontaine-Latour, this is a period that Fontaine-Latour's palette was restricted to the tricolor, so the entire group of paintings following the range of whites, reds, and blues. When I created Blow Up, they were done with 10 different cameras. I was trying to photograph once again, to work in a way that was imperceptible and impossible for Fontaine-Latour, to work at an enormous speed with digital camera, again, because the mean of production had to be as removed as possible from actual painting. And I wanted to capture information that the naked eye will never be able to perceive on the one end, but also to capture everything so sharp with so much information that the naked eye will never be able to exhaust this photograph. So you can keep on looking and looking, and there are so many details within it. In order to do this, I worked with Hasselblad cameras that are very high resolution, but the problem with them is that the refreshment rate of the camera is very slow. It's only 1 frame per second. So in order to overcome this, and the same happened with the photographs that I just showed you with the mirror, I worked with an array of cameras. So there were 10 cameras connected together, and we built an electronic device that triggered them one after another. And the photographs that are created were also, this is a detail of the photograph that you've seen before, were then enlarged to on a very large scale. So each photograph is about 2.5 meters tall by 1.80 meters wide. When I present these photographs, again, there is this issue that photographs themselves, despite the fact that they move from digital to a print, are lacking a surface, unlike a painting. All the information is behind a sealed surface, or the plastic surface, or the resin-coated surface of the paper. And in order to enhance something that is more physical or sensual, I try to avoid, or I always avoid, putting glass in front of the photograph. So the photograph is always exposed. There is a seal that protects it, a matte seal, that invites the viewer to come as close as possible and to create an illusion between a physical or a sensual possible experience and seeing. And it's surprising how often I receive those comments about this confusion between those photographs and painting. I never try to derivatively to copy a painting, but work in relation to the history of painting and the limits of what a painting can do, what a photograph can do, and the gaps or the shift that occurs through technological devices and through history and the passage of time. I want to show you now another film that I made as a commission for an exhibition that I did at the Museum of Fine Art in Boston in 2012. This film is titled Liquid Acid. And in this film, the material itself within the frame, I try to work very much with the viscosity and the sensuality of the material, and to almost create tension between what's happening behind the screen and the sensual experience that the viewer is experiencing through the event itself, as if dissolving the boundaries that exist beyond and outside of the frame.